Anybody have a question? Okay, so everybody here in this picture is family. Khaled on this side of me, the right side. I knew her family from before she was ever born, before her parents got together. I knew them both. Incidentally, I'm family to both of them. And she's a direct cousin with the man behind me, Kamea, is a Kuaiva. Everybody here is Hawaii Island families. And Nawahi, the big man next to my dad, is on the end, and he's a really close cousin on the Hano side. Likewise on his dad's side, and on Nawahi's side in Pukahi. It's a little bit further back, where we join up, but we still know and still have those connections. So once you're family, you're always family. When I met him, certain things resonated with me, and I liked what he was about. I loved his ano. Something about his personality spoke to me, and I had conversation with Kamea and Kale both, and later with my wife, and it was one of those things where you can see things in people, whether they see it or not, and that's what resonates with you, that's what speaks to you, that's what you speak to. And so it was real easy for me to ask him to come and sit. And going on this Mo'okuauhau genealogy of my teachings, my mom's brother, Haleke Alohalani Makua Jr., Tutumalia Craver, and Keone Nunes, all his family. Keone is a little bit more distant cousin, but nonetheless, that's family. Malia Craver is a hukupuna that was an absolute, what do they call that? Hukupuna for the University of Hawaii. She was an informant for many things. The university would use her when they had questions on Hawaiian spirituality, histories, genealogies as well. She was very knowledgeable. And let me tell you, she had a mean tongue. If you stepped out of line, bam, she'd give you a lashing. And Kupuna have a way with that. Maybe when she was younger, she was more gentle. I knew her as she was already older, and she was really quick, very witty, very gentle until you crossed over that step, and then she whacked you. And it was through these verbal lashings, if you will, that helped you to get a very clear understanding of what line you don't cross over and when it is okay or permissible to cross over certain lines. Likewise, Keone started out as a hula teacher for myself. My family says, hey boy, you need to learn how to move like a Hawaiian. I said, okay, here's 5 people. This person's family from this line, this person's family from this other line, but he has another line that reaches back to this other person. You know, all of these 5 people that I was told to be possibly a student of were all family through different ways. Some of them overlapped as well. And it was through the teachings of his teachers, multiple teachers, that brought me really to where I am today. Polished off with closer family teachings that gave me really in-depth ideology of who we are as a family stock, as the kulana, or the level within society that our family was about. I say was because we don't operate in those systems anymore. Maybe on a personal basis we do, but as a collective, the community does not recognize the things that we knew or the things that we were. And that has something to do with colonization and whatnot. And you know, just changes, everybody changes. Moving on to native intelligence. This is an interesting one. How do I know what I know? Number 1, kilo. Kilo is observation, to have a keen observation and observative skills. Pilina is a relationship. So the relationships that you have. And we'll go in a little bit more in depth in relationship as well. Nohona is a word that describes how you live or where you live. Noho means to sit. Noho means to dwell as well as nohona. In that sense, it's where you live and how you live. So everything is a collective. So native intelligence, native intelligence goes into Na'au or Na'auau. So our innate, in-depth knowledge is in our Na'au, our intestines. So if you ever heard that story, or not the story, but the saying, "Oh, go with your gut feeling," that gut feeling is your instincts, and that instinctual knowledge is found in your Na'au, whereas learned knowledge is in your po'o, in your head. So we have enlightened mind, ancestral wisdom, and lived experiences. So that pilina goes into that lived experience because of where we are, the conditions of life where we're living in that nohona. Everything is tied collectively. So I live on the west end of this island. In the wintertime, we get rough waters. Our coastline is very rough. We have big wave action. It's very hot and dry as well. So you look at the lifestyle might be conceived or construed as being a rougher existence than certain areas that has calm weather, a lot of rain to grow food and crops and whatnot, and calm leeward shoreline coasts. Whereas ours, we get whacked with north swell, west wrap, south swell comes in summertime, we catch that as well. So our people on the coastline of the west side of this island are a little bit rougher, and it's because of the conditions and being conditioned, grown up in an area that has these conditions. Some people are real soft and dainty and delicately and walking through life real fragile. That might not be the case if they're raised up in this type of existence, where you have a rough coastline. You need to get out and get fish, get food. You gotta be strong and brave that storm to get out. And once you get outside in the ocean, you have to be able to handle the rough seas. Likewise, coming back in is interesting as well. So we have this innate wisdom through our ancestors, and the ancestors could have been, we could be living in one area for generations upon generations. So what they've learned, pass that on to their children, and on, and develop greater and greater. When it comes down 5 generations later, that child is raised with something from when they're knee high, with this automatic wisdom, because everything is so common in their life. They're not just moving into an area and not having any idea of how to exist in that area. It's been there already. Their family has stories and understandings of what goes on and how to cope with all of these things. So that gives a big insight for ancestral wisdom. We're going into mana. Everybody understand that word, mana? Okay, so it's supernatural. It's a divine power. It can be authority as well. How do we gain mana? Anybody have any idea how to gain mana? 2 main ways in the old days was through marriage. You would gain mana, and your kids would gain through that relationship that you and or that the 2 parents held. And one example of that would be if you came from a high chief line from another area that married into maybe the ruling chief of a whole nother area or another island. That would elevate your kids because you made it with somebody of this upper line. So that's one way to grow in mana. Another way is through war, through conquest. Okay, Sunny has a really, really great, folks, it's my wife Sunny, I'm sorry. I cannot introduce my honey. So, along with mana, there's ho'omana, to add mana. When you ho'omana, ho'o is a causative. So you could ho'oku, ku meaning to stop or to stand. You could ho'o any action, and ho'o is to do that, that causative. Right here in this picture, it's kind of a funky picture. Making a tool, I had just finished lashing it, but I was looking at the angle of, I should have brought my tools. Sorry guys. It's the relationship of the kua and niho to the handle, so the angle that the teeth protrude down. I was looking at how everything lined up. But in this top section, ho'omana, to increase mana, and ho'a mana. A is that ho'ala, that awakening, if you will, or to ignite. So you're looking at increasing somebody's mana or waking up the mana that they already have within them and their family. And we do that through our tattooing. And go ahead now.
Just go back and say one thing.
Oh, honey got something that I missed.
So I just wanted to take this picture here is to take, it's a ahu on Kaho'olawe. And the idea of ho'amana or ho'omana, it is the intention of this ahu, it's a rock structure, because all things have mana, inanimate or animate objects in our belief system. And this is to increase the rain. The purpose of this ahu is to increase the rain on Kaho'olawe. And it's linked to another ahu that is in Maui, that ceremony is done there as well. So it's this idea that we have the ability to request or to evoke, to call upon our ancestors to evoke that mana within the environment. But we have specific ways in which we do it. So I just wanted to point out because of that picture there. Kalamai.
You were just there and we saw the mana of it.
Yeah, you were there. Yeah.
Ceremony and
Yeah, mo ulaiki. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So now returning back to our story on kakauhi.
So with the waking up of somebody's mana, or a familiar ancestral mana within somebody's personal being or within a family, done through these traditions, I'm supposed to be trained as a priest, trained as a specialist of tattooing, of not only tattooing, but of the things of Kane. Kane is the akua that malamas this practice. Kane is the god of life, the god of healing as well. So many things that it overlaps and touches on. With this practice, we are taught that we heal people through the things that we put on them. We heal or speak on things that's already within them or needs to be placed upon them to help something. It's the striking of that match that is the causative for the change within this person, or within the family as well. This is a moli. Moli is literally the name of the tool. The teeth are made, this one particular here is ivory. It's probably about 3/4 inch wide maybe. This is a tool that I rely on often for outlining and shading. Interesting enough, it's been a very staunch supporter for me in my work. Every time I've called upon this tool, it's never failed me. So I have a really close relationship with this tool. Every tool has a name as well as its own character, and they have a function. When we go to this rack of tools right here, so Namea Kohu Moli, Kohu is that rack of Moli. Within this, you'll see different colors of the teeth, of the niho. And it is because they're made with different type of materials. Within this, you'll see ivory, you'll see moli, which is actual albatross, licensed albatross, and kanaka as well. I don't want to point it out because people see it and they'll get to know it and they'll kind of be afraid of it. A lot of people are afraid to be touched with human bone. And some people say, what if the person was bad? That was a person's choice to be bad. So mana is mana. Mana is not good nor bad. It's an energy. how you direct that energy is up to you. Now, in doing such, we would call upon various tools for various reasons, whether it was an outlining or a shading. Sometimes certain areas won't receive a tool, and you have to be able to recognize that. So that goes back to that ability to kilo, or to have the insight of what's going on in your work, for your, I guess, native intelligence, if you would. So then it would be switching off in tools. But like I said earlier, every tool I have a relationship with. Now, some tools I call on more often than others. Some are very special that I set aside for special people to come inside and lay down on the mat before me. Some are a common tool that I would use more readily. And when I say a special tool for a special person, it is Kanaka. It is a family relationship that I would use something like that on. Anybody understand why I would want to use a human bone to place ink or anything? Mark, anybody? Humans supposedly have the highest intelligence on the planet. So if we look to that, and because we have the ability to pick and choose, to balance, checks and balance, should we do it, should we not do it? You know, we have that ability to reason. By far, we're supposed to be superior in our thought process. And why would you not want to be marked with somebody that was superior? Likewise, with the mole being made of albatross. Does anybody know the characteristics of an albatross? It can soar in the heavens for 7 years without stopping and resting and sitting down and just taking a chill. That's huge. I couldn't stand for 7 years. I couldn't do anything for 7 years. You know I'm going to sleep tonight, right? The bird sleeps in the sky. Its wingspan is so great, 10, 12 feet wingspan, easy, can soar on the heavens on just even the lightest of, slightest of breezes. Dip down, grab the food, the fish, go back up, eat it. It will stop and come down to the ground to mate. Other than that, it's in the sky. What is that? Longevity. That's patience. That's endurance. That's qualities of perseverance that I would imagine that all of us would want to have within us. So to be marked by something that has those qualities is what I look at. Likewise, you can't really see it too well, but the top of the larger tools, I have fastened that as a manu, as a bird. So you have the wing on the outside with the head in the middle. So the head in the middle comes up and the wing on the outside coming down the tail in the middle is my reference for my mind, thinking if this bird is a navigator, because it goes to sea, gathers food and comes back, and it has all these wonderful qualities of strength, I want to use that to put energy into people. Why would you not want to do something like that? So that's something that I've done. And I started doing that in the early 2000s, once I learned to actually make the tools. And I took care of Keone's tools. I took care of my cousin's tools, sharpened them, remade them, and made more. I became his tool maker. Actually, as soon as I learned how to make tools, I noticed that it needed to be done. He noticed that I did a pretty good job at it, and he would give me encouragement here and there if something needed to be addressed, and then I would do such. And in the years passing, I've evolved the way I make them, the way I shape them, make it a little bit more ergonomically correct compared to the original stuff that we were shown from the beginning. Likewise, folks, I've been sat in this space for 28 years now. 26 as a student and apprentice, 2 years on my own. It's been an interesting journey. Things that I've learned with this, anybody, show of hands, who has a profession of anything? Ladies, what do you do?
Epidemiology.
I'm sorry?
Epidemiology.
And that means,
Disease researcher.
okay, disease research. Do you ever pray before you do your work? And do you pray during your work?
Yes.
And you pray after your work is completed? And do you cleanse after your work is completed? So that's a process. And in doing that process, there's things that we need to do for our work, for ourselves as well, to cleanse ourselves after our work is done, to cleanse ourselves before the work is even begun. There's a whole laundry list of things that we're trained to do in this practice. And I would say, I want to bet every practice in the old days was absolutely like this. When you got up, you acknowledged your family guardians or your personal kula, and then you would go into your work. Household work, whatnot, around your space. And then you would go into your profession, whatever your profession was. Just so happens that I fell into this profession just because my cousin needed help. Along the way, I learned a ton of things about it, about myself as well as my family. Interesting enough, I did not know until I dove into my genealogy that I came from a tattooing family as well. When I did graduate, I was told that I needed a name for my pa. So I took my 6th generation's great-grandfather's name as the name Huno Holani. And he at birth was consecrated in the priest line of Connie from South Kona, Hawaiian area. So it was interesting where he, at such a young age, at birth, was thrust into a practice. Raised in that, at a very young age, he started tattooing. And I want to say when I went through my uniki, that was nearly 200 years that process probably was not done for a priest of tattooing. Because missionaries came, they said, hey, you can't mark your body, you're pagans, that's heathenistic, you gotta stop. We stopped. We still continued, it went underground. Little by little, we stopped. 1930s was the last that I know of any traditional Hawaiian tattooing. Incidentally, Keone did talk to the man that did receive the last full leg piece in the 70s, and I think the gentleman passed in 76, something like that. So interesting enough, it was family that stretched for family that tapped, that gave that information to Keone. And a bunch of years later, I'm standing in front of you, wonderful people. I'm taught prayers and pule to cleanse myself, to cleanse a space that I'm in, but also to be a hei. Do anybody understand that word hei? To be a receptacle for spirit to come and sit with or sit upon. Not so much as a haka, but it can be in that same sense as a haka, a shelf or something that Uhane would come and sit. So we kahea for these spirits to come sit with us. Anybody have any idea who we might call for? Ancestors. Who better to help you with your work than the ones that came before you that did the work? Call upon your ancestors to come guide your hand, guide your thought process, your inspiration as well, and help your tools. Bring Connie nui akea, Connie kauna makea kalani. Bring these folks in to sit with you, to help blacken your ink, to help ho'omana that ink, to sit with your tools as well. If everything that I do is an embodiment of this particular God, what better way than to also ingest things and properties of this God? So we would drink ava. Ava is a plant, a kinolau of Kane, as well as the fresh water, as well as the kano, the bowl that it's mixed in, as well as sometimes we'll use coconut water as well in ceremony as well. Anybody know why coconut water?
Because it never touches the ground?
It's never touched the ground.
I was listening yesterday.
The most purest water on the earth has never touched the ground. And here's a little fun fact. World War II, people fighting in the South Pacific needed blood transfusion. They were wounded, bleeding out, grabbed a coconut, hooked them up on a line, fresh coconut juice can be used straight across intravenously. There's so much healing properties with coconut, it's amazing. Whether you separate it, take the oil from it, just there's a lot of things that can be done with it. So we will use and eat and consume things of Kane in our practice. We call for people of that family, of the person that we're working on, to come and sit with that person as well. It's crazy some of the things that I've seen sit in that space. I tattooed our teacher / cousin, and there's a process that he spoke of where we would do pule to take if I'm getting worked on, I take that eha, that pain, and I cast it onto somebody else. I'm tapping on him, and it was just nerve-wracking because here's your teacher, your master, and he's like, okay, what are you gonna do if you were to do me? What are you asking? If I'm really gonna do you, do I need to systematically figure something out, or am I just gonna just pull an answer out of thin air and throw it? You know, so you know from our elders that you wouldn't just toss something out. It's a response that needed and deserved in-depth thought. So I thought about it, and I told him what I would do, where I would do it, how I would conceptualize it. And when the work actually started, I was so scared. I was so nervous because I've never seen anybody really just work out on him other than Derek Lardelli in about 94 or something. Yeah. From Aotearoa, did a piece on his shoulder. Candy Everett did his Alaniho chest as well. And then Paulo Suluwape Paulo taught him the tapping tradition and did his right leg. And here he was posing the thought, if you were to do my leg, what would you do? And he said, my leg. So when he said my leg, that's saying, oh, he wants to sleeve his leg. I sleeved his leg in 1 week's time. And it blew my mind. Every day after work, I came to where we were tattooing. I showered up, and I just jumped right into it. Drew him up with the Sharpie, and did our things that we do beforehand, and then jumped into it. OEV TV came once or twice, filmed it as well. He told me what I was doing wrong without even watching. He'd be laying on the side like this. Okay, your right hand is okay, too stiff. Okay, you need to lighten up. Okay, relax a little bit. Oh, okay, I can feel you relaxing. I'm like, wow, you smoking? Is there a camera? What's going on? He caught everything I was doing. It was really interesting, and I never understood that until somebody that sat in our group that I had taught to stretch. I taught them to make the tools, gave them the idea, and because they sat with me stretching for me, I showed them what I was doing, how I was doing it. And then when that person started tapping, did a piece on my back, and I could do the same thing. I could tell them, okay, your right hand, a little bit, you need to loosen up, let it flow. Your left hand, same thing. At certain times, I could tell. And it was interesting that I could tell by the pressure. So your body becomes heightened sensitivity as well as you shine in your mind's eye, I guess you would call that. You're watching. You can't see your back, but you're watching. And I could see him tapping. And it was really interesting. And I could see when he was getting ready and he'd give a little extra tap. The funny thing is, folks, we're right-handed, but we need to use our left hand to place our markings. And that goes into a whole nother story. But
Just share a little bit.
okay, a little bit about that is, if this is your Kane side, your male side, and this is your Hina, or female side, Wahine side, Kane cannot give birth. So I cannot just use this side and tap, because a woman doesn't tap a man, per se, but a man taps a woman, and then she gives birth, right? If you're looking at it in a more carnal sense, of procreation. This striking with the hahau on the moli is the actual intercourse. And as we penetrate the body and the blood flows and the ink flows at kahe, and it's been wiped away afterwards, that is the birth, what you see left behind. So the body is being reborn, the spirit is being reborn, it's been awakened. That is the ho'amana. And so I have to use my left hand. I'm right-handed. I was scratching my head going, bro, how am I going to figure this one out? But it worked out. I don't know, it just worked out. Interesting. I say interesting. My teacher will say that he was always taught the tools will choose who wields them, who handles them. And I always gave that disclaimer. Hey, if I'm screwing up, just let me know. I can step away. Just let me be your stretcher. Let me do your tools. I'm really good with that. And when I say I'm really good with that, it's not about being the one who marks people. It's about finding the best person that can be that conduit to connect the person that's getting work to their ancestors or to their akua. That is the most important. Who can be the one, that conduit? Whether I do it well or the best is not for me to say, but that's what we strive to find. Who can do it? Who is better suited for it? And that's really hard. That's really hard because you see a lot of people nowadays that want to be known for something. And I call that ego. It's people's ego that can be their downfall as well. And so I always gave that disclaimer, bro, if I'm not the one, that's okay. Let me help you find the one. And just being in that process or being in that circle was giant for me. And he always said, no, you got it, bro. You need to do it and keep it going. Maybe it was DNA memory. Anybody have any ideas of DNA memory? If you did something, your family did something generational, it's become instinctual in your lines. Your genetic DNA makeup has that coding. Like we go back to living in the rough landscape. Same thing, you know how to exist. Maybe it was because this is what my family had done for many generations as well, that it just worked out. I'm not too sure. Maybe it's the fact that my dad is a great craftsman, and growing up with that, watching him do things, whether it was mechanically speaking or even carpentry, who knows? But I picked up, I want to say I picked up a lot from my dad being around that. Kakao uhi. Folks, kakao is a verb. Everybody looks at this and says, oh, this is kakao. This is not kakao, this is uhi. Uhi is the markings, the darkness that's left behind after kakao process. So ka literally means to tap with the ha-ha. And where are you tapping? You are placing the moli at the same time as you're tapping. So either kakao or tatau, it's the same thing. You're placing and tapping. And the ceremony behind it is huge. If I was an old chief with great experiences under my belt, great knowledge. Lopaka was young chief. He went through the process and got marked and was, did everything that goes with that, the aikapu before, after. He went through the process and he was anointed afterwards. Everybody would look to him for information before they would look to me, because I did not get marked. Even if I was a much older person, had great experiences and great accomplishments, they would still look to him because he went through the process of and the ceremony of being marked. So it is a rite of passage as well. Depending on the person that I do work on. If somebody says to me, oh, I want to go through the couple and do this and do that, okay, I'm going to ask you, tell me about your lifestyle. How do you live? Do you live with couple? Do you understand what couple is? Do you understand when you're under couple, there is nothing, you're cut off from the rest of the world. You exist in one portion of your house Or you go to somebody else's house where you don't interact with anybody, you don't see anybody. One person takes care of you, and they feed you. They cook your food, they feed you your food, they do everything for you. It's time for you to lay down to moy, they cover you. You literally do nothing. You do not cut your hair, cut your nails, brush your teeth, bathe for a portion of time. You're la'a or ula, you're considered sacred. And that's because you're going into a process of ceremony. Ceremony is about being sacred. So you cannot be everyday life like we are here and be sacred. You have to remove yourself from everyday life. Likewise, if you needed to go to the restroom, somebody takes you and somebody wipes you afterwards. Show of hands, anybody can do that nowadays? Pretty much everybody's like, no, I'm good. Take care of myself. So it's also a condition of the mind that we stand in a space, that we remove ourselves mentally and physically from the everyday walk of life to a place of spirit. There's no embarrassment about having to use the bathroom or being naked in front of somebody or somebody cleaning you, because you're removed from that. You physically made that choice and decision to remove yourself from that. I don't know a lot of people that can do that, honestly. People nowadays are just too far removed from what was real, and it might be pretty uncomfortable, you know, for many people. Coming out of that, you're fed certain foods. Coming out of that, you do a cleansing, the early pre-dawn of whatever day your ceremony is going to take place. And then you go through all of that ceremony. And really, folks, I'm just slimming it down. There's a lot that goes with it. A lot of prayer work as well, and symbolic eating of certain things. And then after that, you go into the work. When you're done with the work, there's a cleansing, a finish, a pane, if you will. And then there's more prayer work and anointing and more prayer work after that. So it's nothing fast, it's nothing simple. So if somebody comes to me and say, I want to do that, do you live like that? Can you live like that? Have you lived like that now? If I tell you you cannot smoke, drink, eat certain foods for 3 days prior, and you go, oh, you know, I kind of drink all the time. Well, that tells me you don't live a couple, and you don't have the essence of what it takes to go through that type of ceremony. So it's one of those things I check and I balance and weigh it out if the person is ready for something or not. Going into this work, there's so much that can be spoken on that. Kahana, which literally means the work. These two gentlemen are different. Here's my nephew at Hawaiian immersion, Maui actually. We did demonstration, did Alaniho on my nephew. Alaniho is hip to ankle, speaks on your genealogy. So folks, we got all kinds of genealogy. Genealogy of our bloodline, genealogy of the work that our family was in, genealogy of the land, genealogy of where your Ike came from, your knowledge as well. So there's all sorts of genealogy. But we look at all of these things when it comes to conceptualizing the work. So we look at what your family did or what your bloodline was about, and there's certain patterns that we would match to that. And then it's composing it in a way, if something is stronger, speaks more so than something else, then the pattern or that area that carried that pattern would be more so. And then what else was spoken on? Like this one here. On the outside is makaihe coming up. The stuff inside is secondary to the makaihe. As well as this one down here is a complete thought on part of his family, whereas this one on the top is, now this is interesting. This top part is a mixture of priestly line and chiefly line from Hawaii Island and from New Zealand. This bottom one is completely a priestly line from Puna. Likewise, the Papa Honua is a Hawaka. Hawaka, anybody understand the moon phases? Hawaka is a moon phase. It's a night of the moon. It's in the Pokane region where the moons are fading, and Hawaka is actually, it's a moon crescent. But it was a sign, that was a symbol, that was something that Keikaulike wore. Anybody know Keikaulike? So that would be in the range of Kamehameha's grandfather. And that was a symbol he wore. So Keikaulike, does anybody know that? Anybody speak Hawaiian? Maybe nobody? Besides brother. Keikaulike literally means balance. It's another way to speak on balance. And what does the moon do for us? Balance. The moon is the balance of the earth. It creates our tides, it creates our weather systems, as well as our seasons. So it is the regulator. And so that is placed on his Papa Honua, his foundation, because his bloodline goes directly back to Maui, to that chiefly line. This incidentally was the first work that you would have done in the old days as opio. Opio is a time frame when you are coming into your own, you're searching for your mana as well. That's your teenage years. We're doing it a lot nowadays because there's a lot of people that want to connect with their genealogy, with their family, with everything about old days system. So that's really common now to do on most people. We'll get some people who want to do chest right off the bat. They'll say, "Oh, I want to do my chest." Okay, what do you want it for? "Oh, for my family." Oh, family's foundational. So different area of your body speaks on different things. Foundational is underneath you. You know, you don't make a building with the foundation on the roof. And so that's something that I kind of try and let people know, and you kind of have to, sometimes you have to sculpt what you say to people because they don't know how to take it. They don't understand principle behind it. So these top and bottom are different because we're recognizing different things within their family lines. And one thing I will do is try and look spread wide on all the genealogy collectively that creates this person that I'm working with. They could come from something very strong and powerful that's so small and minute that they don't even know it. It's my job to find that. Everybody wants to say, "It came from King Kamehameha." Okay, that's great. So did everybody else. He had 30 plus wives. And they said, "Yo, nobody left from those lines." Well, nobody left from particular wives' lines, but really spread wide, there's a lot of us, or a lot of people out there that have those lines. I'm sorry? I got 5 minutes.
Connie on the left.
Okay. Kahane on the left. Why would we as men want to tattoo our left side? That is wahine. Got any answers, brother? Was that Jeopardy? Okay, guys, quick. Because we want to embody something that women have innately. They're very spiritual, they're very connected, and they can flow. Men, we don't flow. If get one obstacle, we're just hitting it head on. We'll figure a way to get over it or get through it. Women's like, "Bro, I'm walking around that. I ain't gonna touch that." So women are smart. I want to say women are smarter than men. And so we want to embody that emotional and spiritual sense that women embody. That's why we strengthen that side of our body. Women would strengthen their right side, and that would be to give them more masculinity at times in life when they might need it. So that's something. And the patterns are a little bit lighter for a wahine. This one is, if I had a really clean up close shot, it's outlined and lined. That one has a little bit line work as well as some of the niho is filled on Hokahi's leg. The next one is, this is a wahine's arm, and she's a lawyer. I kid you not, this arm I could like put my hand around her bicep area. She's tiny. And so I was looking at her arm going, oh, sister, this is gonna be tricky. Because she's tiny, she wasn't muscular, kind of squishy little arm. It had to be soft and easy, delicate work. So actually, this is, you know, blown up. This Papa Moon pattern, I kid you not, those little guys are tiny. The tool that I use to make that has 4 teeth on it. And 4 teeth, it's, I don't know, maybe 3/16 of an inch square, probably. So this wahine is really small. And she's a lawyer and she's in DC right now. Whereas this gentleman over here came from a family of farmers. And it was absolutely generational farming. And he is the one that stepped away from that. So his family did not like that at all. But we spoke on that, and we spoke on some of the things that he was doing as well. So these are pauku. Pauku is something that stands alone, whether it's on your chest or your ribs, or your face. Anywhere in your body is pauku, can be something that stands alone. Like this wahine over here, I wish I had really clear shots. Was a scientist, does work up in the Arctic. Amazing lady, amazing stories. She existed off of whale blubber, seal blubber. And I was like, vegetables, what, fruit? The whole diet system went out the window on that one. And she said first it kind of tripped her out, but it was really good. She said she acquired a taste for it. And she lived with native people up there. Incidentally, you can't see too well, this pattern here is a EV pattern. EV is bone. It speaks on the backbone of a whale. And because that was something that she learned to live with and study was the whales. And as well as eat the blubber from them. So that talks about her personal journey and growth through her work, being in those areas that she was at. Likewise, this is, we added this coming up here into the back of Cousin Chase's leg. And I want to say that's a work in progress. When we work on ourselves as well as on Cousin Lopaka, it'll be, I got this idea, I want to do this, when are you free? And it'll be something like that. So whenever you tell me you're free is when we hold on more with what we've started already. And so it was a process. What I did after this, I came up the center from the Achilles tendon, straight up in here, filled in knee hole, and I did a reverse on this kupu pattern. Anybody notice a kupu? It's a fern. It speaks on growth. And I did solid black all on this inside of that pattern, left a gap channel that mirrored everything all the way around. And it, when you see it, it's heavy. It all looks mean. With this ocean pattern on top. Ocean doesn't look like ocean, does it? Straight line with little blocks. Pika pika okahe. And that is the suction cup of the octopus. And that speaks on retention of learned knowledge. So we have knowledge that we've gained through experience, and then knowledge that we've gained through being taught something. And this is in being taught something.
So this is the end of it. Y'all
Okay.
just wrap it up.
This is the end.
Yeah. So everything he does kind of builds on it. If you're going to add from the foundational piece, he'll build on by adding these pauku to increase the mana of that person. Right?
Well, I got something that I didn't talk on.
Yeah, go ahead.
I did speak on briefly about casting what you're feeling to somebody else. I've been, what do you say, the receiver? What do you call it? Receptacle? I've been the receptacle for that many occasions. My body's kind of numb, and it doesn't bother me to have pain. I've had pain all my life. I've had cancer twice at different times of my life. I've had uku billion operations. Certain parts of my body last night, when we were drinking awa, I spilled. My upper lip is numb. Right now it tingles when I touch it. So I don't know that I'm spilling from this side of my mouth when I'm drinking. But I've done that pulling, and I've done it so that you don't feel what you're feeling. I'm stretching the skin, I'm trying to help the person. Or I was on the side trying to help the person. Many times we've seen that and been a part of that. We've been in times when somebody was struggling getting the work, and then at a certain time they just completely came calm. Just like this spread was just put over them, a veil, nothing, they were good. Just cold as ice, just lay there. Took it, did whatever. Afterwards, 5-10 minutes afterwards, they broke down, just started crying.
And when you're in that space, when you're receiving that, you're just exhausted at the end of it.
I want to say absolutely that is somebody's ancestors coming to sit with them. Knowing their genealogy, when I go into the work, I don't know what they do personally before they lay down on my mat, but I know what I do, and I call upon them to come. The area behind me is coupled when I'm working. Nobody comes behind me, and that is reserved for spirit to come. You can come on my side, but nothing behind. And if you do come on my side, it's not right next to me. There is a gap. You know, seeing different things when people go through things is really interesting. But seeing that struggle, and all of a sudden a switch hits, and that person just comes into this stage of calm serenity. That's powerful. That's that. Absolutely.